Great. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Ajita from Nth Adventure, and I welcome you all to our 6th episode of Amplifying Adventure Season 1. And this episode is sponsored by 𝘵𝑗𝑙. And today we have with us an amazing guest, a very special friend who is an adventure racer in himself, reporter at 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵𝘓, and he has his own exclusive YouTube channel which is exclusive for adventure racing. And he's joining us all the way from UK. He has immense experience. We're going to be talking little bit of that today. So just be with us and let's get started with our episode 6. Welcome, Adam Rose.
Hello, Ajita. Hello. Anybody who's turned up to watch? Yeah. It's an honor for me to be invited. Yeah, this is pretty cool.
How are you doing? How are things in UK?
It's all right. COVID isn't that bad. Well, it's bad, but it's not affecting me that badly because we live out in the countryside. So this morning I went for a bike ride, and then I did some kayaking on my kayak machine, and I can get out and explore and have little adventures every morning, and I don't have to. We're not locked down in that sense. But yeah, it's all right. I was thinking of doing this outside, but now it's raining and whatever, windy and miserable. But yeah, it's all good.
Great. So Adam, let's start with, like, we know us, like, personally. It's been like 2 years we met in Rodriguez, so that's how we connected, and it's so good to be talking about the sport which united us. So let's start about how you got into this sport, how you got into adventure racing. Just let us know about your journey.
Yeah, like a lot of people, I saw 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵, but I saw it in 2003, somewhere around there, when I saw 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵 Borneo. Somehow, I don't know where I saw it, but when I saw it, I thought it was incredible. It matched my wildest dreams about outdoor sports, but I thought it was beyond me. I thought, looking at, that particular series, or that particular race, Borneo, was very, very tough. You had images of people breaking down and crying and saying, what have I got myself into? And I thought it was only for people who were Navy SEALs, special forces, kind of super tough people. So I forgot about it. And I just thought, whatever, that's a dream. And then in 2009, I came across, in the UK now, I came across somebody doing a multi-sport race. It wasn't adventure racing, but just multi-sport. And, I thought, that looks pretty interesting. And it was happening 200 meters from my house in some forest. And it was just running and mountain biking. And so I trained for that by doing 2 runs of about 1 mile and 1 bike ride of about 20 minutes. That's all I did. And I came almost last, but I finished, which was in the middle of winter. It was called the Iceman. But through doing that multi-sport race, I started Googling, and I came across just the fact that there were short adventure races in the UK. And that changed me completely. I was like, wow! Instead of 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵, which is such a big deal, there were these short races. Pretty much like Nth Adventure's doing in India, getting people into the sport without it being too difficult or too overwhelming. And I entered a couple of short races, 5-6 hours. And then I needed more teammates because, as we know, adventure racing is team-based. And so I convinced a bunch of my friends to give it a go. So I got a whole lot of them together, and I said, there's a multi-sport, not adventure race, there's a multi-sport coming up, who's interested? And I explained adventure racing, and I did a little PowerPoint presentation, all that kind of stuff. And these bunch of guys, most of them like me, in their 30s or 40s or even 50s, out of shape. But the idea of the challenge and the idea of the adventure drew them in. And so in this short multi-sport race, we had 4 or 5 teams of 3 people each. And from that first event, which was like January, so the middle of winter in the UK, I got at least maybe 8 to 10 people who bit. And well, they didn't fall in love with it completely yet. They had to do a proper adventure race to really fall in love with it. But they were like, wow, this is pretty cool. And we built a club called Beacon Adventure Racing. And a lot of the people were from my church, all these guys that I used to race with. And we used to train every week, once a week. And we would get people to come along who have no idea of adventure racing. They just want to be with a group of people who are training. And we would train at night because as husbands and fathers, we didn't have time during the day, so we would train at night. And I ended up, that was 2009, 2010. And I ended up doing races in different countries. And, we had a team, we had a great team. And I was part of that team, properly involved with that team up until 4 years ago when I left that area of the UK and moved to Wales. But I'm still racing with those people or racing against them. Like I organized the race the other day. But adventure racing for me, my background before the UK, when I was young, was BMX and surfing and rock climbing and hiking and running and lots of outdoor stuff. South Africa is very outdoor sport oriented. So for me to make the transition to multi-sport and then ultimately adventure racing, it's a very natural progression. And and I'm comfortable in the water. A lot of people, when they come to adventure racing, aren't comfortable in water. They may be good runners or good bikers, but they're not comfortable in water. But as a surfer, I was very comfortable in the water. So and I grew up on the edge of a massive nature reserve that had baboons and monkeys and leopards and all sorts of stuff. So even my childhood was in the bush, having adventures, exploring with 2 or 3 of my friends or my brother and stuff like that. So it's just kind of been a natural fit, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, true. So naturally, before you got introduced to the sport, you were already an adventure racer, experiencing or doing things in a different way.
Yeah.
But when you got to know, you got an opportunity. Okay, this is everything I have done. Now it's part of a package as an adventure racing.
Well, there's something that I realized the other day. I mean, like recently, yeah. Because you don't need to do adventure racing to have adventures. You can get your friends and you can just go out into the bush and do crazy stuff. But one of the very strong reasons I started doing, the multi-sport and the adventure racing was I need a goal. And a lot of the people I race with also need a goal in order to train. Some people will just go and run and they love running and they'll always run every day. But for me, I'll be lazy if I don't have a goal. So we enter these races so that we have a goal. And because we have that goal, and because adventure racing is a team sport, we have to train because we don't want to let the team down. But if you're training for just ultramarathon or marathon or something like that, the responsibility is on yourself. And if you don't train, it doesn't really matter because it's only you. But because adventure racing is about team, you have a responsibility and an obligation to the team. Absolutely. So, that's such a vital part of adventure racing. So the thing that I realized the other day is, I do adventure racing for the adventure, but I train adventure racing for the racing.
Wow.
Because you'll often hear that question. People will say, why do you do adventure racing? Is it because of the adventure or is it because of the racing? And for me, if it didn't have the racing element, I wouldn't train. I would just go out and have fun. But like this morning, I'm going out and training. I don't really feel like it. I feel like lying in bed. But because of the racing, because it's a competition, that is why I'll train. But I do the sport because of the adventure. Anyway, it's just a little thing that I realized the other day.
But that's really deep, like the self-realization of, that is. So true. So now you have done so many adventure racing. You've been into the sport, inside and out. And you've also been a reporter with Sleep Monster, and you get to be with other teams. When you're racing, you're with your team. You have to focus, do activities. But when you are a reporter with Sleep Monster, so you travel to different places. Yeah. You bring in so many stories which will be either left out because a media guy cannot be everywhere. A photographer cannot be everywhere to capture the essence. So how is your journey as a reporter? Sleep Monster?
With Sleep Monsters itself, the way I got to know Sleep Monsters was like a lot of people, you Google it and you find it, and it's, the oldest, most respected adventure racing website, I would say. There's nothing else that comes close. They've been involved for such a long time. And I used to, in my early races, especially my international races, I would write a race report. And then send it to Sleep Monsters and say, hey, if you want, he has a report, you know, and sometimes nobody else would write a report for that particular race. So they would go like, yeah, sure, you know, we'll publish it. And Sleep Monsters welcomes that. So if any of you people watching participate in a race, you know, we really want you to send us your reports, you know, because it's more learning material and it's exciting and it's interesting. And then in 2013, speaking to Rob Howard, who runs Sleep Monsters, who's in charge, there was the 2013 Costa Rica World Championships. And Rob and I agreed that I would be part of the reporting team doing dot watching from home in the UK. So I think he was on site in Costa Rica and I was dot watching and, you know, social media and all this other kind of stuff. And from 2013, I've been formally involved with Sleep Monsters. So as part of a small team. And, you know, there are 4 reporters officially and anybody else who wants to contribute. And some people will freelance for us. And then we've got 1 person in the background. So it's a small team. You know, as you said, one of the benefits, there's no money in adventure racing unless you're very, very, very clever. And in covering races, it's an incredible experience as a reporter. The way we get compensated is to go to these races and have incredible journeys and adventures and, you know, other countries and places. As you know, in adventure racing, you often go to places that the normal public is not allowed to go. So because, you know, us reporters for Sleep Monsters are really passionate about the sport, we love to go there. We love to see the journey that the competitors are undergoing. And we love to write, and, you know, just it's an incredible experience. And, you know, I've seen you like at Rodrigues. Weren't you also at 𝘁𝑰 though in 𝘠𝑉𝑎NCE? Did you go to
no,
the
No,
you didn't. No.
I went to Namakwa. I was in Namakwa.
In Namakwa.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And, yeah, so it has given me a unique perspective because, you know, as you said, a lot of teams only do adventure racing from the point of view of a competitor. But for me, it's been very valuable to also be able to see it as an observer. And so I have noticed when I interview competitors, my background as a racer helps me ask the right questions that I know the teams are thinking because I've been there and I know what they've gone through. So it really works for me that I can, you know, been from both sides. And also, you said I know so much about adventure racing. Let me say this. I know what I know, right? And as anybody who races, anybody, you know, you can talk about Seagate or Avaya, whatever, they are always learning. They are always learning. And that is an attitude that I think anybody who does adventure racing embraces, is that every race is a learning opportunity. And for me, whether I'm competing in the race or reporting on the race, everything is an opportunity to learn more and discover new techniques and new ideas. And it's a non-stop journey. So I think adventure racers are generally a pretty humble group of people, just by the nature of the sport. And so for those people who are watching this who've never done adventure racing, once you get into the adventure racing community, you realize how incredibly rich and warm and embracing it is. And part of the reason for that is because it's built about relationship. And Ajita knows, as I was saying before, you know, for me, the core of adventure racing is relationship. So my relationship to my team, my relationship to the other teams, my relationship as a reporter to those teams, and to the staff and the race directors and everything. And, you know, the Expedition Africa is one of my favorite races in the world, partly because I'm South African, but partly because you can see in that race and other races, but you can see in that race how relationship is just the core of what they do. And, you know, Heidi Muller keeps on saying, it's all about love. It's all about love. And she's totally right.
True.
So that's one of the valuable things about adventure racing is that. And that leads to humility, because you're not just trying to prove how strong you are or that you can get an incredible Ironman time. You know, like I've got the best time and the best score or whatever. Adventure racing humbles you very quickly. And if it doesn't humble a person, they leave adventure racing because it becomes too, you know. So by the very nature of it, it's a unique experience. It's a unique experience. I mean, I could just go on and on and on, but
Yeah. Okay. And I can totally understand, like as you mentioned, like, every race there's a different experience for teams, different experience for race organizers, and Sleep Monster has been doing tremendously amazing job. And like for people who are starting, or for beginners, or there are so many people who have not heard about the sport or what happens on the course, because we are racing for 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
There are teams who will be out in one day, and there are teams who go through all the 7 days.
Yeah,
it's a pain as well as the happiness when you get that pain. That's the thing I have heard from many adventure racers. And every race report, every team experience is different.
They're
racing same course, the disciplines are same, but at the end when they share their experience, and when we see the race reports coming from Sleep Monster, it's altogether a different feeling. It's a different story.
Yeah, and it's so also... Sorry.
Yeah. Continue, please.
Well, you know, on top of what you're saying there, some people might say the same thing about their Ironman or their triathlon, that each competitor has a unique experience. But it's different in adventure racing because although there's an overall course, each person's physical journey is different because you're free to make decisions about where you go. And you don't have that freedom in most endurance sports. If you're doing ultramarathon or let's go back to triathlon, you have to follow the course. But you know, in any adventure race, it's all about navigation. So as a team, you decide, you have that freedom and that curiosity about what journey is going to unfold. And as we know, you know, the best teams will get every single checkpoint on a race. And then the middle place teams and maybe obviously the lower place teams will skip out CPs. And so they might see a part of the course that the race director never even expected because he didn't know people were going to take that shortcut, you know. But that's the adventure part of it. And that's what a lot of the other endurance sports, there might be an adventure within themselves, but if everybody's doing exactly the same route on an ultramarathon, it's the exact same route. But I like the fact that every time I race, it's unique because no two adventure races are ever the same, ever, because it's navigation to unique checkpoints, you know. And there's no other sport that can say that other than orienteering, and orienteering is really, you know, the younger cousin of adventure racing, you know, because of the navigation component.
True.
Yeah, there are no two races the same, that's for sure.
Yeah, and as a team, winning or coming in top 10 is the most priority, or for the happiness of finishing the course. I feel that is more important, and that's the spirit every adventure racing team carries with them.
Sure.
And that's the aim of even the organizers as well. They get maximum teams to the finish line, completing the full course.
Yeah. And in my experience, I've seen some very serious teams. I mean, it's hard to say the professional teams in adventure racing because, as I said earlier, there's no money in it really, and people might have sponsorship, but you basically don't get professional teams. Even Avaya, Seagate, and all those like #1 teams, they're by and large not professional teams, but they are the most professional. I have seen in some very top teams, if they're not competing well, I've seen top teams miss out a checkpoint because they couldn't find it, and they get to the transition and they tell the race director that checkpoint wasn't there, it was missing, somebody stole it. And the race director says, no, it was there. And the reason I know that is other teams have found it. And I've seen the team that missed it drop out immediately, right? Now, that's not the way I approach adventure racing, because my approach is, and I think for most adventure races, is every time you race, because it's unique, you're never going to get the chance to come back there in that particular situation again, ever, because no two races ever happen the same, right? So in the teams that I've raced with, our policy, and I think most adventure racing teams are like this, is even if we have to drop a team member because that team member is injured or they just can't compete, we will leave them safe and secure in transition, being looked after by the race staff, and the remaining team members will still continue the race without a ranking, because the reason they are there, the reason they have trained, the reason they've gone to all this money and time and everything is because of that incredible experience.
True.
And if somebody I mean, I saw the other day in the XPD in Australia, a dog bit this adventure racer in a very private
Yes.
area. Terrible, right? In the first stage.
First
You
stage,
know?
yes.
And somebody else on that first stage in the same team dislocated his shoulder. So you have two people who cannot continue. And you have two people who like, what do we do now? And from what I understood, those two remaining team members continued the race because it's still going to be an incredible experience. And they might team up with other teams that also lose team members. And I've seen that happen so many times. So other than the few teams who take the racing very seriously, you're right. I'd say that most teams are there for the adventure, are there for the experience. And if they cross the team together, cross the finish line together as a team, that's the best. And that's what I think most people enter. Let's just get to the finish line as a team together. But if you can't, there is still opportunity for an incredible experience. Whether in a smaller size team, just 2 or 3 of you, or joining up with other teams who've lost a couple of team members and create a brand new team in the middle of the race. And I think new adventure races coming into the sport, it's not something they would expect or that they would know. But through not the short races, but certainly the longer races, more likely they will come into this kind of experience and go, wow, you know, something magical happened out of, you know, a tragic accident or injury or something like that. So, yeah, I think I'm waffling, but yeah.
No. This is very much required, and that's the beauty of this sport. Like we learn so much, and we'll have so much to share.
Yeah,
it's not, and every race is unique. Every race is different. If you are not racing as a reporter, you will be experiencing the same emotions what other racers are going through.
For sure.
Yeah. That is wonderful. For all our audience, so Sleep Monster, please check out their website, follow their Instagram page. They have so many adventure racing stories starting from organizers to race athletes. And so many upcoming races, they support them. So please do support them, follow them. And if you have any questions, please feel free to message them.
Yeah, people message us at Sleep Monsters all the time. Sometimes they message us because they're looking for a teammate or they want to publicize their event. And Sleep Monsters allows anybody to put their race onto our calendar system free of charge. And as soon as people do that, we then can advertise that race. But it's free, you know. I mean, anybody can go along and just sign up and say, oh, there's, you know, post their event. Yeah, just saying that people can publicize their races free of charge if they want. You know, we actually find at Sleep Monsters quite difficult to get teams or races to advertise their stuff on our calendar when it's free. You know, it's like, come along, create an account in 2 minutes, publicize your event in 2 minutes, and that spreads it to the audience around the world. So, yeah, and you were talking about newcomers who don't know Sleep Monsters. You know, we've got a lot of material, written material on Sleep Monsters, because Sleep Monsters has always been about the writing, which offers, you know, that perspective, and it's one of the reasons I created that AR on AR YouTube channel, is to give. Because I've always put the stuff on Sleep Monsters to give Sleep Monsters also that avenue of video, because as we know, so many people prefer to watch videos than read content. But, you know, Sleep Monsters will always be centrally about what is written, and also, in this case, offer some video content as well. But yeah, it's how a lot of people get into the sport or find out about races.
Yeah. Great. So even our events are also on Sleep Monsters. So Indian events also people can find on sleepmonsters.com.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I was like about to ask you about that YouTube channel AR on AR, which is exclusive for adventure racing. And as you mentioned, like for people who are starting with, and they are like key disciplines and few equipment related or terminologies they would like to learn. So everything you are covering in your YouTube channel. Just let us know about your YouTube channel, AR on AR.
I've been meaning to do it for a long time. I've been involved with video and TV and film production since I was at university, so many years. And we know that YouTube is king, you know, for YouTube University, right? I mean, that kind of idea that if you want to learn something, go to YouTube. So I created the channel. I knew I should do it. And then when Eco Challenge Fiji was announced, I thought, well, it'll be a good opportunity to a lot of new people. We expected a lot of new people to join adventure racing, obviously, just like in the old days. So many people watched Eco Challenge and then discovered adventure racing. And so when I started the channel, we all lead busy lives and everything, but I managed to put the first episode out 2 days before Amazon Prime showed Eco Challenge Fiji. And so I was like, oh, I got it. But yeah, the main goal of it is to help newcomers to adventure racing learn the basics, because, there is a lot of material out there, and some people have tried to create a YouTube channel before, but it's generally been short-lived. So I knew there was an opportunity in the market for me to create something long-term. And, I would like to put out a video every week, but unfortunately, and in the beginning I was, but life is busy and I have so many things on my plate. So I put out videos when I can. I've actually got 2 sitting here right now. One of them is about training, and I've already done one recently about training, but I've got another one about general hints and tips about training, which is going to come out soon. And also, I've got one that I'm going to put out about how to create your own adventure race, which, it's that kind of thing I feel is going to be really, hopefully useful. So we get a lot of grassroots development of adventure racing when people realize it's not that difficult to create your own small event just for you and your friends. And that will introduce people to the sport who can then come and compete, for example, at one of your events, and then they will learn, just like navigation. We know navigation is one of the biggest obstacles that people have about adventure racing. How do I navigate? So, if people can learn to create their own little events, they can learn without paying any money. And then when they start racing, they know what they're doing, or they have a better idea of what they're doing. So yeah, that's AR and AR. And it is, even in the very first episode, it's important for people to understand it is not the word on adventure racing. It's only my word on adventure racing. So, whether I make mistakes or don't do things properly, well, hey, it's only me, it's just my perspective. And, there's a million other perspectives out there. But, yeah, it is at the moment, I think, the only YouTube adventure racing specific channel.
Yeah. That's great. And for all our audience, this YouTube channel is like one-stop destination for every and anything you would like to know about adventure racing. For example, the importance of tow rope.
Yeah.
It plays an important role in adventure racing, and many of us would not know or would not carry that. Might not be using it.
Yeah.
But there is the importance of that, and how to keep your feet well for 7 days.
Yeah.
So there are so many minute but very deep and important topics have been touched. So please do follow that YouTube channel and just let us, Adam, know like what else you would like to hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few of the episodes have come from people asking in the comments, can you do an episode about this topic, whatever it is. And so for me, that's great, because, hey, let's take that, let's make it, let's get it out the door. But, like a lot of people on YouTube, one day, I don't know about adventure racing, because it is a small sport compared to triathlon or running and all those things. But the goal is, for me anyway, is if I can build it up, then I could focus more time on that and less time on the normal day job, doing normal stuff. But I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I'll just continue to do it.
That's nice. Please continue to do that. So a last question before we go on to next segment. So you have been racing and you have been reporting various adventure races, and this sport has evolved over the years. And for every adventure racer or organizer, it's all about experience. So just let us know some of the disciplines which are unique, which are being introduced in adventure racing over the years, which we see it is not just about MTV, it's not just about running or kayaking. There are some unique disciplines. So just let us know some of them.
Yeah. For anybody who's new to adventure racing, and I know that India is a new country for adventure racing. You know, I mean, it's fresh and people are getting excited, and that's great. But a lot of people think they need to be very fit. They think they need to be great runners and great mountain bikers and kayakers. Those are the main disciplines. But a lot of people, when they do a short adventure race, you know, 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that, that might be the first time they ever kayak. They've never trained it before. But when you sit on one of those sit-on-top kayaks, they're so stable, you can't fall in very easily. So a lot of people, they might do some running and they might do some biking before the race, and then they get on the kayak for the very, very first time, and they find out it's not too bad, right? But that's, like I said earlier, one of the things about adventure racing is always learning, always learning. So in recent years, some of the more popular disciplines, one of them is pack rafting, where you have these very small rafts for one person or two people, and you can go down whitewater. You can do grade 1, 2, 3. Some people have done grade 4 whitewater rafting on these little things, and they're really, really great because they give us the opportunity to go through trekking through a region. And when you find a lake or a river, instead of having to go around the lake, you can paddle across the lake, because they're such small, you know, packs. They go on your backpack, 1 kilogram, 2 kilogram. They're really, really small. So pack rafting has been had a big impact on adventure racing in recent years. We don't have a lot of swimming, but one of my favorite disciplines, which has emerged in the last 7 or 8 years, is underwater checkpoints. So
Wow.
even in the sea, you know, the first race I saw it was in Slovenia, where we were swimming down the coast in the sea, and you had a map, and you had to look at the land and try to work out where you were, and then swim down to find the checkpoint. And it was just anchored on the sea bottom with a Coke bottle full of air, you know, a plastic Coke bottle.
Okay.
I mean, that's great, you know, and you didn't have to be a great swimmer. Some people, like me and my team, we were swimming properly with flippers and with goggles. Some people were on blow-up mattresses. Some people had like children's blow-up elephants or rhino or whatever it was. I mean, you know, from the beach, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, you had all sorts of devices for people to stay afloat, because some people were not good swimmers, yeah. But adventure racing is constantly evolving, and you know, how many disciplines are there in adventure racing? You could say going down a gorge, going along the coast steering, and swimming, and mountain biking, and horse riding. And then we know Expedition Africa Lesotho next year, they're supposed to have donkey riding.
Yes.
In disciplines where you have one bike and one person on foot together at the same time. So half the team is riding while the other half is running. And then you swap, and then you swap, and then you swap. And that's not a new idea. In 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝑵, you know, back in the 90s, they had like less horses than team members. So you had maybe 2 horses and 3 people on foot. And you kept on having to change as you were going along that stage. Somebody's riding, somebody's running, somebody's riding, somebody's running. So people are always inventing new disciplines. And that's, you know, where that's very important for a new adventure racer to understand is you will not be the king of all the disciplines. So you may be a great runner, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great pack rafter or a great swimmer or a great biker. So what that means consequently is you will be weak at something, and the rest of your team might be strong at that thing. So when you enter an adventure race, you know, going in, you will be the weakest link somewhere, you know, and that's very important. So that's why I talked about earlier that adventure races generally are quite a humble bunch of people. It's because adventure racing teaches you that you cannot be strong all the time. And even if you're physically very strong and you've got all the muscles and all the athletic ability and can do all of the disciplines very well, the one thing that will always get you is the lack of sleep. So sometime during that race, you will be weak and sleep deprived and literally going, oh, I can't think straight. And your teammates will pull you along and help you and encourage you. So adventure racing, you learn to understand your weakness, and to admit your weakness. And not many sports do that, you know, because on a solo event, like a triathlon, you know, you're not accountable to anybody else. You know, there's nobody who's going to help you. You're on your own. But I think most people would agree that if you want to watch a beautiful movie, you go out to the cinema and you watch an incredible movie. You find that movie will touch you deeply and it'll make you laugh and make you cry. But it's so much better if you share that experience with somebody. You know, you want to tell people about that movie. You want to share the joy and the love and the laughter and the scary stuff. So that's what adventure racing does with a team, is that you go and have an incredible experience and you share it with a group of people. And hopefully they're very good friends of yours, you know, because that's usually the case. You're racing with your friends. So again, the enjoyment is multiplied because you're able to share it. And it's not that situation where in a lot of other endurance sports, you've had this crazy experience and nobody else understands. And you can tell them and you can tell them and you can, and they're still not going to understand because they weren't there. But that is why adventure racing is so precious, is it comes back to that thing about relationship, is sharing an incredible experience in a very short space of time with people you care for deeply. And, you know, you want to, yeah, share the joy, share the whole journey. And they will help you when you're feeling weak. And you will help them when they are going through a weak period.
Yeah, Adam, I absolutely can understand. And the way you expressed it, this is so beautiful. Like anyone cannot be a king at every discipline. So there will be a strength, there will be a weakness, and that's why it's a team who provide you, like where you're weak, they will give you strength over there. And that's a beauty. I couldn't agree more than this, and you have put it into a beautiful words. No wonder you're writing so many reports for Sleepmasters.
Well, let me just say, for the new adventure racers, what they will learn if they decide to do the sport and do it for a while is that they will learn that ego is the last thing you want in an adventure race, in a team. So the best teams will openly admit when they're having a problem to each other. So if I say to my friend, are you okay? In normal society, my friend might say to me, he's my friend, right? Or she's my friend. She might, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. In adventure racing, you don't have that. You can't have that. Because if you ask somebody, are you okay? And they don't tell you the truth, the team will suffer later when that person breaks down. So you learn to be quite open and quite like, I'm suffering right now, you know? I can't handle this. I need help. And that's not very common in society because we usually present a face to the world that says everything's okay. But in adventure racing, you can't get away with that, especially expedition length races, because sooner or later that mask will crack and people will know the truth about you. And so the teams that I have raced with, who are my very, very, very good friends, I have seen their best qualities and their worst qualities. And they have seen the same in me too. They have seen me at my worst, and yet we are still very good friends. And that's very precious because it's very rare to get that kind of very open, honest communication in the world at large. It doesn't happen very often. But adventure racing does this crazy thing where you have to do that in order to work collectively together, almost like a single organism. That, you know, your right arm is honest when speaking to your left arm, when speaking to your right leg or your left leg. The whole team has to be like that, and you know.
Yeah, so true. So pro tip from Adam and from me, like if anybody wants to test true friendship and human spirit, please go and do adventure racing.
Yeah, or get married. People are getting married. Yeah, you know, they propose on the finish line. It's I think one of the best tests one can ever have, because you will see the worst of your partner during the race, and the best. You know, you will really learn who they are, because all the masks will drop sooner or later.
Wow, that's a nice place now to get married and get proposed. Yeah. Great, thank you so much, Adam. It was so wonderful, like talking so much about adventure racing, and we can go on and go on and go on. But now we have to move on to next segment, which is our audience segment, and we have few questions from our audience who wanted to ask you. First question, your pick.
4.
4. Okay. Okay. So there is a question. While reporting, have you ever felt like racing? I don't know how to report. I want to race this.
Oh, totally. Every race I report on, I want to be racing. You know, because I'm jealous. I'll be very clear. I'm jealous of the experience they're going through. And you know what it was like, for example, at Expedition Africa Rodrigues. One of the most incredible races I've ever seen. And I think everybody who was a staff member or media team or whatever wished they could have done that race because it was so special. The location and it was incredible. So,
I feel the same.
Yeah. Obviously, the reporting has been very valuable in giving me insights and understanding. But I would
again.
I enjoy racing first and reporting second.
Great, great. Okay. Rodrigues, even I remember like on that island having a 350-kilometer race and so many disciplines.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay, next question, your pick.
3.
3, okay. What is that one piece of advice for adventure racing reporters? You would like to hear.
For reporters?
Yes.
If you want to be a good adventure race reporter, do adventure racing.
That's the best advice.
Because
yes.
You have to know your subject. And if you do a race yourself, even just one race, then you can know your sport or your subject from the inside and not purely observing it. You know, yeah, that's the most important thing for a reporter is to know what it's like to actually race.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, and last question, your pick?
5.
5. Okay. Which is your favorite adventure racing moment?
I don't know. That's a hard one. I know Randy Erickson on his podcast always asks people that question. I don't know. I mean, they over so many years and so many places. I can't say it's a specific race. I don't have a specific race at a specific time. But what I can describe as an experience. And for me, it's early morning when the sun is coming up, either trekking or biking into that dawn. And it's sunshine, not cold and freezing and raining. I don't enjoy that. But when it's dawn and the light coming through the trees and you're with a group of your best friends,
wow.
Your spirits have lifted because it's dawn and you've got through the night. That just gets me every time. And through a pine forest with the sea on one side, it goes crazy. I just freak out. I mean, we're on our bikes and I'm going, woo! Yeah, that experience, I've done it so many times in different countries. It's like, can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Amazing. I can totally understand that. Yes. There's a feeling that we are like short on words to express, but there's a feeling like we should experience it. Just be there and see it yourself. Okay, the same question, like it is a continuation. A team you admire the most, an adventure racing team you admire.
The Gear Junkies, they used to be called the Gear Junkies Yoga Slackers. Then they became just the Yoga Slackers, and now they're called Bend Racing.
Bend Racing.
And they, they stage races in America. You would have seen them on Eco-Challenge Fiji as Bend Racing, and everybody knows about Dan, the guy who had the heat stroke early on in the race. That team, I've admired them for so many years, and now I know them personally, Jason, is because they have a unique approach to problem solving. And they've demonstrated, if there's going to be something weird or strange or unusual or creative that's done in a race, it will be that team. So they in one race in the Patagonia expedition race, which they've done many times and they've won that race, This was before pack rafting became a thing. It's complete wilderness. There are no roads, there are no paths, and they're trekking for maybe 3 days on one stage. They ended up using their sleeping mat, because they have inflatable sleeping mat. They used them like a pack raft to go down these rivers and shortcuts down the rivers where everybody else was walking through very dense vegetation. And nobody had done that before. And nowadays, people would actually carry a pack raft. But the Bend Racing team, they've got incredible experience. They're a nice bunch of people. They're humble people. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. You can learn so much from a team like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, as you were mentioning, like, that's what adventure racing is all about. Like, how you solve a problem into certain situations, how you come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And there's so many teams are given such examples.
Sorry?
There's so many teams who are giving such examples, like how to, like, as you mentioned, the way they solve the problems.
Yeah. I mean, it's a kind of, there's a military mentality to it. I say that because the military in most countries will talk about adapt and improvise, because no adventure race goes perfectly. And so it's how, as a team, how you adapt to the changing circumstances and how you continue, especially if something gets broken or somebody gets injured or there is a cliff. What do? You can't go down this cliff. I was listening to a podcast this morning of one team in the middle of Alaska in an expedition race, and one of their pack rafts got washed down the river and it was gone. And they're in the middle of the wilderness and there's nobody coming to fetch them. And they're like, what do we do? You know, they survived, but how you adapt to problems. And then that experience will then affect you in normal day, everyday life. You learn so many skills on adventure racing that can then help you in your day-to-day approach to life. You know, there's no problem that's too big. There's always a solution. You can work together with people, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it really does inform how you approach day-to-day life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So thank you, Adam. So with this, our audience segment ends, and I hope all our audience have got answers to your questions. So the only other way to understand more is do adventure racing.
Yeah.
That's the best thing which we all can say. Okay, so Adam, now we move on to our next segment, which is fun segment. And being a host, I get the privilege of asking all my guests in rapid fire round.
Okay.
Okay, so rapid fire, as you know, this is as quick as possible, like what comes to your mind, so you have to answer it. So we get to know a little bit more in detail about Adam and what he thinks.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adam, are you ready for your rapid fire round?
I'm ready.
Okay, so your first question is a race that changed your life.
I did a race called the Montenegro Expedition Race back in 2010. It is my first multi-day race, and a very tough, incredible experience in a country not many people visit, and it gave me that wild adventure that I hadn't had because adventure races, you want, for me anyway, I want to get away from people, get away from civilization. I want to go to something that really challenges me. And that's the spirit of adventure racing, is what explorers used to do 200 years ago, traveling through the world. And that is literally the heart of it, of the core of why adventure racing developed. And so that race really opened my eyes, like, wow, it's real, you know? Yeah. 2010.
Great. Okay, next question. Which is your best adventure race covered as a reporter so far?
Maybe Rodrigues, Expedition Africa Rodrigues. Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one, but that was a new format, you know, that what is normally, a lot of people thought it would be, it is an experiment, and it worked so well. Having many short stages in an expedition race, because usually expedition races are long biking, long trekking, and this was short. And I think it opened eyes of many race directors around the world that you can have an incredible adventure race in a small area, because the island of Rodrigues is a small island, and many people thought it would be impossible to stage anything of quality, and yet it did completely the opposite. Everybody was like, wow, this could be a recipe for the future. You don't need to be in the biggest wilderness. You can have very incredible experiences in a smaller location. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. I seriously, that's such a wonderful race, and we have to give credit to Heidi and Stefan, Expedition Africa organizer, of creating such a beautiful race on that island. Yeah. Next question. Moving on to next question. If a movie is made on adventure race athletes, what would that be titled?
Well, there is a movie being made right now, and I think they're calling it Arthur. About the dog back in the Ecuador 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵 race, which a lot of people learned about adventure racing through that. So, yeah. If I was to think of a movie on its own, what would they title that movie? That's a hard one. I don't know. But anyway, if you're interested in adventure racing in the movie, when that comes out, Mark Wahlberg is the lead actor, big Hollywood star. So we're hoping, just like 𝘚𝘰𝘶𝘵 has done in documentary style, that this as a fiction, or not as a fiction, as a dramatization of an incredible story, will really reach people who don't know anything about adventure racing. So it is actually coming.
Yes. Nice. Okay. So moving on to next question. If you must name one of the best race organizers, who would that be?
Heidi and Stefan. I'm biased.
Other race directors are also watching this, or going to watch later on.
Thanks, Heidi and Stefan. You can give me the money afterwards. Me using your name.
Right. Anyway, you're going to meet them next year in Lesotho.
Well, I hope I do. But, there are a lot of great adventure race directors around the world, and it's a very difficult task. It's
true.
Generally not financially rewarding. Sometimes adventure race directors can lose money in doing a race. So most big expedition races are done for the love of the sport, not with a financial incentive. So I have great respect for anybody who has the guts to stage a race. But, I'm partial to Heidi and Stefan's races because, for many reasons.
Totally understand. Okay, moving on to next question. What comes to your mind when I say these? Describe in 1 or 2 words. Expedition Africa.
It's all about love.
Good one. God's own adventure race.
Wild. And beautiful. Wow.
The next expedition, the next year's promo is... Yeah. Okay, next, Eco Challenge.
The granddaddy.
Okay, next, Patagonia Adventure Race.
The last wild race. That is their slogan, but they've got a good reason to say that. That, I would argue, is the wildest, toughest race in the world that we know of. For sure. That's
the Patagonia Adventure Race, the first race we came across before we got into adventure racing. That's the reason for us, Patagonia Adventure Race.
Great.
Okay, sleep monsters.
Family.
Nice. Okay, moving on to next question. If you could have one superpower, what would that be and why? Superpower.
Any superpower. Flying, Flying. I'm sure flying. It would get me over those very difficult stages. No, I suppose.
Okay, nice. Next question. Best part of being an AR reporter?
It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a part of other people's journey through something so incredible and intimate as an adventure race, as an expedition length adventure race. Yeah. It's a privilege.
Okay. And the worst part?
Waiting.
Waiting.
Waiting
for the team.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. There's not many bad sides to it.
Okay. Next question. Next YouTube video you're launching. Which is your next YouTube video?
It's either the one on training, general tips for training, or the one about how to stage your own adventure race. I'm busy editing them both at the moment, so I'm kind of, I hope, yeah, it'll come out soon.
Great, great. Okay, the next question. One secret about AR that not many people know.
I don't know, honestly. Let me just think. It depends who you're talking to. You know, if you're talking to somebody who doesn't know anything about adventure racing, right? To that person, yeah, the secret is anybody can do it. Because, like I said, with my journey with adventure racing, I thought it was beyond a normal person's ability. But the secret is anybody can do it. And to teams who already know that it's mental, it's not physical, it's mental.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, then the last question is, which was your sleep monsters moment?
Which you've been having sleep monsters? Yeah, I described it in one of my episodes on the YouTube channel. I mean, there's many experiences, but there was one where I was in Slovenia, and it was the afternoon, and I'd had not heat stroke, that's too strong, but I'd suffered from heat exhaustion the previous day, and that can really hit you. So it was in the afternoon. I was very tired, second day of the race, and my teammate was pulling me with a tow rope, and I was basically, my eyes weren't open, and it is on a tar road. And so he's just marching ahead, pulling me by the tow rope, and I'm just going like this. And there was a road sign, and I couldn't see the road sign because my eyes were shut. So I'm walking in my sleep, and I walked face first into the sign, bang! And it knocked me. And it didn't hurt because I was relaxed. It was almost as if I was drunk. But he said it was like towing a drunken caravan, you know, like I was weaving backwards and forwards. So he just heard a noise and he turned around, and I was like, wow, on the ground or whatever. So yeah, sleep monsters. I've seen crazy things. I've seen monsters and the ground changing into all sorts of things. Oh, whatever. But that for me was quite a memorable experience. It just made me laugh. It made me laugh. Hitting a sign at full speed, or, you know, at a decent pace. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That's seriously, I'm just starting to imagine that. But yes, of course, you being there, and of course, yeah, that's a sleep monster moment. And that's how maybe the name came for Sleep Monsters. That how sleepmonster.com name came in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to ask Rob where he got the idea. But yeah, the sleep, for anybody who hasn't experienced expedition racing, you know, that long adventure races, don't worry about experiencing sleep monsters. That the hallucination you see when you're very tired, it will happen, and it's generally quite funny. And you will see and hear things that don't exist. And then when you recover your energy, that'll evaporate. But it's nothing to be worried about. I find it amusing. I find I laugh when I start seeing them. And it's usually, you know, 2 or 3 days into a race. Yeah, it's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so that was your rapid fire round, Adam, and well played. I see there were not much difficult questions for you, but yeah, it was really great. So now we move on to our giveaway segment. So now you have answered question number 3, 4, and 5, and I have these names with me. So you can pick any number out of these, so that the giveaway, the winner is going to be getting lead gels from our episode sponsor. So any number.
From those 3?
Yes.
Okay, 4.
3, 4, and 5. 4. Okay, so we have with us four. Okay, so today's episode winner is Joy.
Okay, cool. Joy. Thank you for
Congratulations, Joy.
Cool. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Okay, so with this, our episode ends. And thank you, Adam, for sharing your wonderful experience. And there were lot of things we spoke about adventure racing as a sport, and a lot of things goes down as an athlete, as an event organizer, and you being as a reporter covering both the sides. And so any message, like before we sign off, any last message you would like to give us to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't done adventure racing before, and I'll say that a lot of people like triathletes. We try to get triathletes to do adventure racing because triathletes already do multi-sport. And when you ask them, hey, why don't you try adventure racing? A lot of them say to us, you guys like pain too much. We're not prepared to suffer that much, right? Now,
Okay.
what I have experienced as an adventure racer is they have that understanding because they've never done it. But when you do an adventure race, before you start, especially a long one, you're going to suffer. It's going to be painful. But that's a very small part. You don't do an adventure race to be miserable. You do it because it will make you feel more alive than possibly any other time in that year, so don't be afraid of the horror stories that people tell you about adventure racing. It is generally, you will have downtimes, like normal days, like normal life, you have downtimes, but overall it is such a life-affirming experience and such a strong relationship-building experience that I honestly feel sad for people who never get to experience it because it is precious. So, if you get the opportunity to get into adventure racing, I don't know anybody who's done it who hasn't said something like that it is precious. And you might do it for a short time and not do it again. That doesn't matter, but you should give it a chance because there's nothing else like it.
True. This is really beautiful. You have expressed, Adam. So that's the relationship even we have built, and we have met some of amazing athletes. And age doesn't matter. We have seen the youngest athletes as well as the 60+ people.
Yeah.
And they come. Everyone has the same spirit for the sport, and they respect each other.
Yeah,
and they come out at the finish line, and we celebrate. I have seen like the team who's crossing first is celebrated the same way the team who crosses last.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of love for all these athletes.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows they have gone through so much during these 7 days, and it's an achievement to reach that finish line together as a team. Yeah.
Very precious. Very precious.
Yes. So that's the main ingredients which connects all of us.
Yeah.
Which have a family. We have so many groups, so many clubs, so many races coming in, and people are supporting, and we support each other. So that's the beauty. Like whichever country you are, how many races you have done, whether it's a small race or a big race, or you have been part of any international race, you're still in part of the community. You share same passion.
Yeah, and that the most experienced teams with the most success will very happily help any other team. There isn't a hierarchy that they're special and they're the winners. It's no, and I think new people coming to adventure racing discover that, and they go like, wow, I'm racing against a world-class team, and that world-class team just tried to, gave me advice and gave me directions, and it's like, wow, you don't get that. I couldn't even, if I wanted to do Ironman Kona, I can't even enter that race, let alone speak to those athletes, But adventure racing is a different kettle of fish. So yeah, it's a very warm environment, very welcoming, very welcoming, very welcoming.
Yes, absolutely. I just can't wait things to get better, and we get to travel, experience more races, and see each other, meet each other, and talk more. That's the thing we look forward to.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you so much for joining us. It was so wonderful, and we spoke so much about this sport. And people who are gonna watch this episode later on, there is a huge opportunity, and there is so much this sport offers.
Yeah.
And as Adam is also has his own YouTube channel, and through Sleep Monster, we are supporting and promoting the sport. Do follow them. And if you have any questions regards to adventure racing, please, you know, Adam is our guy, so please message him, drop him a message. And don't forget to follow and subscribe his YouTube channel, which is very, very important. If you are new or your experience adventure racers, please do follow, because there is every episode has something new to learn.
Thank you very much. No, thank you, Ajita. It's been really good. I think the adventure racing community is just, as you know, having already said, it's very welcoming. We just want to spread the word of adventure racing, because we know personally how rewarding it's been, and we just want to share that experience with so many other people. So that, you know, the more you're doing a great job in India. I mean, it's like flipping amazing, actually, how quickly you've grown right from the word go. It's like very impressive. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. It means a lot. It's all this. Thank you for supporting us, and coming from you, it means we are a young organization. We still have to go and have to learn so much. So continue doing that, because this is what we love, and we have our friends like you. So yes, this is what we want to do. So for our audience, thank you so much for joining us today evening, and I'm going to see you next week, same time, same day, with another amazing guest. Till then, stay safe, take care. This is Ajita signing off from Nth Adventure. Thank you, Adam.
Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.